Hello there, Senators, and welcome back to Star Wars Democracy. We're going to be talking about the Acolyte tonight. Here to join me, I have Journeyman. Journeyman, how are you doing this fine evening?
I'm doing great.
Good. Yeah, it was kind of it was funny because I was like, "Hey, we're going to be talking about the Acolyte," and you're like, "What? They they dropped a trailer today?" That just goes to, this is why I love to have you on the streams in the channel too, because it's like you just give us that perspective, like, yeah, I'm just here. I'm a Star Wars fan, but I'm just here. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like we just should get right into it. We have a few senators here joining us. Leb is here. Howdy, Leb. And we have Raphael. Welcome, Raphael. Great to have both of you here. Really excited to talk about the Acolyte. Um, Let me know, senators in the chat, if you got a chance to see the trailer, because I feel like we're gonna get some mixed opinions on it. Um, in fact, let me see if I can pull up on my phone here. I'm gonna go to Star Wars YouTube page. I saw somebody post this, Journeyman, and I thought it was really interesting, the distribution
okay.
of likes and dislikes on the trailer.
On
Let me
their on
see.
their Twitter X page,
Yeah.
or is it on their
Trying
YouTube?
it was on their I think it was on their YouTube. Um, but I can't seem to pull it up there. Let me see. I think it was Josh from the Den of Nerds posted it on Twitter. Let me see if I can find it.
I can
'Cause I thought,
see it right now.
oh, you can see the distribution
Well,
of
I
likes to
can see
dislikes.
I can see the likes, but there's
Okay.
no number for dislikes.
Interesting. Well, he took a screenshot, so this could be fake news depending on where it comes from.
Sure.
But as of 6 hours ago, uh, when he took a screenshot of supposedly the Acolyte trailer,
hmm
it was at 85,000 likes to 60,000 dislikes, which is pretty wild. That's like obviously not a 50-50 split, but it's pretty like almost, not almost down the middle. Um, but like, I mean, 85 to 60 is like, I would say pretty darn near close to a 50-50 split on likes to dislikes. So I think that that is pretty telling of where we're at as a fandom. Hey, we have Senator Kathleen in the chat. It's great to see you, Kathleen. We haven't seen you in a long time. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a member. Which, by the way, if you're not a member and you'd like to be a member, that's a great opportunity and way to support the channel. When you become a member, you actually get access to the Senate Chamber audio channel in our Discord, where we can actually go talk, not in person, but virtually, but we don't have to just talk over stream and live chat. We can talk on the voice channel. It's a really good way to connect. So if you're interested in that, it's only $2.99 a month, and I think it would be it's a really fun time. So Kathleen says, finally have the night off. Well, it's great to have you, Kathleen. We've missed having you here. You're a OG senator of this channel, and we appreciate all your support and for being here. So, um, anyway, yeah, so I just thought that the distribution was really interesting of that almost 50-50 split. So I'm really curious. Number one, how many times did you watch the trailer?
I've watched it twice after I got
Nice.
off work. So I watched it right when I got home, and then I did it once more just so I can remember and kind of what we were going to talk about. It's not like I can't pull it up again, but I watched it another time just so I understood it, made sure I understood what I was watching.
Hmm. Okay.
Other
And
than
your
that,
thoughts? Your thoughts?
my thoughts, I think it, from a trailer perspective, I think it's really cool. Like, I think
Okay.
it's really interesting what they're doing. Um, I feel, I don't know how I feel, but about them kind of doing the same thing as the Vader fight in Kenobi, kind of doing the whole I don't wanna say ninja-esque, but, like, it's not really fighting with lightsabers, it's more or less, like, just dodging and really like karate, basically, kinda, like,
Mhm,
what weird what everyone was kinda talking about with Ahsoka, that's kinda what
mhm.
they're trying to do here. I wanted at least from the trailer, I'm like, "Okay, this is cool and all that, but, like, I want some lightsaber fights, or at least seeming like we're getting some." And don't get me wrong, we are getting some at the end, like, there was that all the lightsabers lit up and we had that one antagonist there, so I'm not saying we're not gonna get fights, I just thought that was what was on my mind watching it.
Yeah,
Um, the other thing I thought was it it's kinda confusing where the story is going from because it seems like we're in the Jedi Temple, but is it a I'm still kinda confused on who the main character is.
mhm.
That's
Yeah,
the other thing.
that's a good question. Yeah, that's a good point because it's kind of ambiguous on which character we're supposed to be following based off of the
Yes.
trailer. Did you all so, I know the senators in the chat are talking a lot about different things, but did you all feel that sentiment too? Now that Journeyman brings that up, I could kinda see where that could be confusing. Like, who is the main character here? Is it the Acolyte? Obviously, the show is titled The Acolyte, but is it going to be the dark side person? Is it going to be, what's his name? Yord, I think? Like that older, Jedi? Um, yeah, that's a really good point, is, like, who are we supposed to be following here? Um
Well, and from just context clues, like, yes, you had the all the red kind of at the Disney Plus logo at the end, so, like, and it's called The Acolyte, and we kind of understand from it, like, we're gonna be following a to a degree, a dark side user, but to me, like, and just kind of using context clues here, like, we're probably gonna look back at her training in the temple, or whoever's training in the temple, understand, like, what the Jedi were trying to teach him, and then how that went wrong for them, but at least that's what I got out of it. I'm like, "Okay, we're gonna be going into the background and then kind of going from there," but overall, it was just like, "Okay, so who's the character that we're supposed to be following in this trailer?" Like,
yeah, yeah. Well, so, Catspaw says it's the Acolyte and her origin story, which we'll circle back to that in a second. Um, and then Raphael says, I feel the main character isn't tied to one person specifically, but several characters that we will follow, the Jedi and the Dark Jedi or Sith. Yeah, so it does seem that way based off of the trailer. I really hope we can really hone in on one person's story, though, Raphael. And in my opinion, I would just like to make sure that narratively speaking, we're following one person. And that would be really cool if it was the Acolyte. Senator Kathleen says teacher and student in her fall to the dark side. So yes, just to kind of circle back. Okay? So Journeyman, do you know anything
I know
about
roughly I know
like the
roughly
show?
that it's what I've heard is, like, it's gonna be focused on a dark side user, I get that. It's gonna
Hmm.
be she's gonna be female, so there's that, which I'm fine with, doesn't matter, that I'm just pointing out what I know. And then, um, other than that, I really don't know a whole lot about it.
Hmm.
I know
Yeah.
that
So
I know it's had some rough patches, though, that's why they've been delaying it or whatever and trying to make it work.
yeah. So I what my understanding is, it will be following, so I think it's going to be following the Acolyte, and if you notice and listen to the trailer, it talks about, like, someone is killing Jedi,
Mhm.
and honestly, the story sounds really cool, and we talked about it, I think, a couple weeks ago. We can maybe pull back up that article to see if it fits what we're kind of, like, talking about here. I can maybe do that in a second, but what I'm hearing and what I'm understanding is the show's going to be about someone who's killing Jedi, going around and killing Jedi,
Hmm.
and this particular person was a former Jedi, and her master is still a Jedi and is going to be made aware of it, and then, like, that master is gonna kinda have to address his past and kind of, like, work through that, which I think is an interesting story. It's kinda like basically a Jedi serial killer almost, like, just going around and just, you know.
To me, it sounds like a lot of from at least a dark side perspective who we're following. But like, correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe this is a bad take or a bad comparison, but it feels like the Obi-Wan show. Like the former master kind of doesn't know, but like it's kind of the same in the same vein. That's what I kind of relate it to. If that's what you're kind of describing,
Interesting, yeah.
like that would be
Sorry, I'm
my.
trying to load, um oh my goodness, there's so many stories on Bespin Bolton about the Acolyte. I was trying to pull up the story that we talked about a few weeks ago, um, just to pull that up and talk about what it was. Um,
I mean, you don't even have to pull it up. You could probably just look it
let's
up and read
see.
it.
Yeah, let's see. I think I'm able to get it up here. Please hold. Uh,
Is it
Here we go.
called Star Wars: The Acolyte trailer incoming
Perfect.
episode link?
So, no, I already found it. I got it pulled up
Oh,
here.
okay.
So it says this was the Bespin Bulletin article that we talked about a few weeks ago. Um, it says the Acolyte, which is set during the High Republic era, will follow a former Padawan and her Jedi Master as they investigate a series of crimes, but encounter forces more sinister than what they've imagined. The series stars Amanda Stenberg as the lead, as well as Lee Jung Jae. Okay, so that doesn't give us a lot right there. Which will follow
Like
a
to
former Padawan and her Jedi Master is.
like that to me
Go
sounds
ahead.
like just from reading that, that sounds like we're following Jedi at that point, not even following the dark side either. And I thought this was supposed to be,
Yeah, I mean, if this is
if that's true, but I mean, and that's why I'm asking the question from the
yeah,
trailer, like,
yeah,
who's this show supposed to be about?
no. I think it's gonna be following
I mean,
I think it
like
will
they
be,
can,
Ellie B in the chat is saying it could follow the point of view of multiple characters. Potentially, like, here, a good comment says, how in multi point of view books they usually have the name of the person you're reading about. What if a TV show did something like that and the name of the person the episode is about shows before the episode? Yeah, I mean, they could do something like that for sure. It does sound like, I mean, it's probably going to follow. We're probably going to see the dark side user, and then we're probably going to also see the Jedi's perspective as they investigate these crimes. Um, so
mm,
yeah, I mean, the thing is like the trailer is just a
the trailer
teaser,
doesn't
right?
do it justice. Yeah. Well, it
Well,
doesn't do
but
it
it's also just a
justice, but
teaser. It's
Yeah,
just a teaser, and so we have to anticipate that we'll get more information probably once a second trailer releases. Could
yeah,
even release on May the 4th. Because this show comes out on June 4th, so May the 4th would be exactly a month out, and so we could get some more information there. So I think that there's plenty of room for this show to breathe, and I think that it will be good. We just have to give it some time. Um,
yeah.
Let me read through some comments here, and then we can go back to a few things. Um, Raphael says, "Yes, I think the story sounds very good. Jedi being massacred is something we don't see very often in Star Wars, especially with Disney wanting to be more soft and take a lighthearted route. Yeah, this does seem to be kind of like a darker like turn and shift for sure. So that's kind of exciting in
Yeah,
a way.
I'm not expecting really even Kenobi vibes. Not even really expecting the Daredevil or not Daredevil, the Deadpool treatment for this, but it does take a different spin on what we know as Star Wars. So in that light, like I'm happy to see this project through.
Yeah, and one thing that was interesting too that I saw people talking about, and I'm curious to know what you all thought in the chat. I think some people were kind of upset with how dark it kind of is seeming. Um, in fact, I've already mentioned him once, but Josh with the Den of Nerds was kind of saying like how they released a poster yesterday. I don't know if you saw the poster, but it was like a lightsaber, and the lightsaber is ignited and it's red, but it looks like blood. And
Hmm.
it says, in an age of light, a darkness rises." Um, and that was also, I think, said in the trailer, if I remember correctly. So some people were saying it was a little bit almost too dark. Like, do you get that vibe? Like, do you think this is kind of like a darker side for Disney? I mean, I suppose like
It's
we
a
are like
darker side definitely for Star Wars, but I think if they were gonna do it right and what once again George wanted, we would have saw all of Order 66 and that would have been really dark. And I think here they're trying to push that button a little bit more, but
Mhm.
I don't think I think we're doing probably just about as close as we can with not it getting to where George ultimately wanted it, but then he said, "Yeah, it's probably too dark, so we need to bring it back anyways." But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I don't get the sense that it's too dark.
no, no, no,
I
no,
w-
no.
I will say there's one interesting line. I think that Josh also kind of took issue with in the trailer. One of the characters says, "This isn't about good or evil. It's about power and who's able to use it," or something like that. Do
Yes,
you
and
remember that line?
yeah, I once
I
again, it's
mean,
kind of
I think my only fear for the show, not to get too political with it, is that, like, those kind like, that at face value, like, doesn't have me concerned. I just wanna be clear.
yeah, yeah.
But it is kind of getting to some borderline, like, maybe some issues that we kinda wanna stay away from. Um
I just think if you're taking it from a Star Wars perspective of what Star
Mhm,
Wars is, and you're kind of doing not once again not to throw sequel stuff in everyone's face, but like when you take the sequels and you throw everything that Star Wars was against the wall and say, "Yeah, we're not going to do that. We're going to do our own thing." I think that's kind of what you're doing with that line there is you're saying, "Hey, Star Wars isn't about good or evil.
mhm,
It's about the power." And yes, while that is true, you still have to have the central theme of good and evil there, and you're just kind of outwardly saying like, "No, this isn't about that. Like, it's not about the power at all." But yeah, what did Palpatine? What was he looking for? The ultimate power to do anything.
mhm, mhm.
And so,
Yeah. Yeah, so, it's interesting the things that people are kind of, like, taking issue with this show so far, like, at least that what
but
I've seen.
Yeah, but at face value from that trailer, like, it doesn't inherently ruin the show. But if you're just taking that one line in at context or, like, at the face value and just using only that line, you're like, "Okay, what is it like, what is Star Wars? What does it represent?" It represents good and evil
Yes.
with power, but, like, you can't just say it's all power and all about good and evil. Like, there's a balance between both. That's why they're both there, but it's like you can't choose one or the other there.
Hmm. Yeah, and at the end of the day, Star Wars is inherently about good and evil. That's what George created it to be, and so I think that we shouldn't take any issue with the lines in the trailer just yet. I think we're gonna really have
Yeah,
to watch the show and see kind of like what happens. So,
yeah, for
Senator
sure.
Kathleen here says, "The rise of the dark side." Raphael says, "My only gripe is it seems that they are going to break canon and what George wrote in making the Sith known to the Jedi, even though in the Menace, Sith hadn't revealed themselves for the past 1,000 years." Okay, so this is really cool. This is a good comment, Raphael. One thing that I've heard, again, I keep bringing him up, but Josh with the 10 words. One thing that he kind of has like pointed out in the past and has talked about in the past is
Mhm,
there seems to be like kind of an interesting dynamic. And if you go back and watch I think it's the Phantom Menace
mhm,
in particular, uh, there's like an interesting dynamic between Mace Windu and Yoda. And he's always like kind of had this theory or the speculation that they know something that they're not sharing with the rest of the order, or like
mhm.
something that like they know and that was kind of like, maybe kind of hidden or something like that. And so I'm wondering maybe if they could tie that into this somehow, Raphael. Take something that probably is meaningless when George initially did it. Just he's like, hey, like Sam Jackson, I want you to look at this puppet a certain way when we do uh, this scene or something like that. And they could take that and run with it and like really like make this show like maybe something really bad happens, and it sounds like something really bad is going to happen to the Jedi, and in an attempt to like cover something up, maybe like Yoda does something, and then we see a whole nother side of Yoda. um so I don't know if that makes you feel better but about it, Raphael, but that's what I'm hoping they do, is like they take this and they can like fold it into the Phantom Menace in a way that's kind of can make it a little more special and kind of like pay off in certain ways. What do you think about that, Journeyman?
Well, in a way, I was just kind of the reason I wasn't kinda talking there was I was looking at when the Acolyte takes place, and it says, "Towards the end of the High Republic and 100 years before Star Wars: The
Hmm.
Phantom Menace." So, to your point, like, wrapping it up there, that'd be kinda cool, but, also
Hmm.
kinda be cool, um, how would I put this? It would tie it into the Phantom Menace pretty well, but it would kinda give, um, the Jedi, like, some, um some doing of their own of why the Clone Wars and all of that even like started or like it kind of starting that like they've been
Hmm.
hiding
Hmm.
a secret from the whole council or however that lineage went down to Mace Windu and Yoda. Like it kind of gives them a bad rap in that sense. And so then if you take the rest of Star Wars and like why it even started in the first place, like you could say
Hmm.
like, oh well, we've known about Sith for a while. We just we didn't want anyone to worry or like
Yeah.
anyone to really know. And so that would be
Yeah.
like an interesting
Yeah. That's
dynamic
that's kind
there.
of that's yes, that's kind of what I'm hoping for, is like let's take this and run with it a little bit. In fact, when I was looking at Dustman Bolton, the articles, there was an article. Let's see. And we can talk about this later on in the week.
Hmm.
Okay, so on March 16th, there was a Bespin Bulletin article that I have not read, but it says the Acolyte footage rumored to be attached to the Phantom Menace re-release. Original and prequel 4K theatrical re-releases rumored. So it does sound like, and we can read this article, like I said, later on a different stream, probably later in the week. We could touch
Hmm.
base on it. But it does sound like there's the potential for it to connect to the Phantom Menace. Um, and I think we were all kind of like wondering if that was going to be the case. Um, so, and I hope it is. I hope it is. I think that
Well,
would be a really good
I
idea.
think
So,
I think the connection, if we're gonna make the connection of anything, is just Palpatine. Like that's
mhm.
probably what's gonna be it somehow, or at least like Plagueis or someone other than just like it could probably be such a small thing where it's like just a little small connection. It doesn't have to be like a big thing, but it'd be interesting to get that little tidbit into the Phantom Menace, just so we're like, okay, now we can go into the Phantoms with maybe a little different view.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm gonna keep going through the comments here, but y'all will have to let us know. Um, you brought up Plagueis Journeyman, and I was kind of wondering, like, I don't know. We can kind of save this until we get to down in the chats. But who do you all think that the mysterious uh, Sith is in the trailer that we see at the end with the saber throw? A lot of people are saying it's Tenebris, who is Darth Plagueis's master, and maybe we could see Plagueis kill Tenebris, because of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. Maybe we'll even see the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, and maybe we see Palpatine kill Plagueis. So you'll have to let us know in the chat what you think, and then we'll work our way down a little bit here, because I want to get through some of these other comments. LEB
I'm
says,
also
"You know how
looking at
I'm." Oh, we already read that one. Travis, welcome, Travis. Thank you, Senator, for being here. He says, "Greetings, everyone. Hope you're well." We hope you're well, Travis. Looking forward to chatting with you. I'm sure you've already posted some comments, and we'll get to them in just a little bit here. Let's see. Oh, and here's one right here. Travis says, as for this breaking canon, it doesn't need to. The Jedi didn't know about the existence of an entire planet or the army being made for them on it because it was deleted from a record. Yeah, so that's a good point, Travis. Like exactly what we were just talking about, right? It's like there's a real possibility that they could figure out a way just to make this make sense. I mean, like you're saying, the Jedi had no idea about Camino or the clone army, and so you know the only thing, and I'm not saying you're wrong here, Travis, but I think the only thing that this is kind of different is you know I mean, based off what we know from the trailer, like we got a literal Sith acolyte assassin going around just wiping out Jedi. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know if that could just be like maybe erased from the records and like I not like have. I feel like that would be just kind of like commonly discussed. Um, but they could definitely find a way to keep it on the down low for sure. And again, I think it would be really cool for Yoda to like. It would bring so much layers to Yoda's character for him to like know something and just not share it, and like him maybe he takes part in like a very very bad deed or dark secret, and we've always seen him as this wise Jedi master, the Grand Master of the Jedi, and he has this deep dark secret that he holds. Um, and maybe that dark secret is something to do with what we see with the beginning of the Jedi downfall, and he just kind of like tucks it away, hoping that it won't fester, and it festers and it ends up kind of in the downfall of the Jedi. But anyway,
Well, I think just to that point, like, is it crazy to think that if Luke wasn't there on him with him at where did he go to meet Master Yoda? Dagobah. Sorry.
hmm hmm
Um, like if he wasn't there, wasn't nearby, like, and Obi-Wan like says like you should train Luke basically. Like, is it crazy to think that he wouldn't have told Luke? Or like because he's like, Ben, is that you? Like he's hearing the conversation from Master Yoda and being like he's too arrogant or something like that to train, and he's like, no, I'm ready. Like it,
Mhm.
I don't think it's crazy for him to have secrets. I think everyone to a degree has secrets, and I
Mhm.
think even the most powerful Jedi should at least have some secret that we never knew of. I think that would be an
Mhm.
interesting. It doesn't diminish his honor and his bravery for
His
what we
legacy that
know.
we know. Mhm.
Yeah, his legacy that we know of, but like it would just it would give it a different spin to it, and it's like he wasn't always as good as we thought he was.
Mhm.
And that's not tarnishing that. That's not like ruining George anything. Like for all those people out there that seem to think that, like I don't think that's the case. I think you're just adding a little layer that we never thought of.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be so cool. And again, you'll have to let us know what you all think. Um, Senator Kathleen said, "I hope it's not going to be bad directing like Kenobi." Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I hope it's not either, obviously. I will say, like, is it me or does it just feel like, with the exception of Ahsoka, I feel like Ahsoka was a step in the right direction. I just
Hmm.
feel like these live action Star Wars shows, particularly the ones uh, that have lightsabers, I feel like they just they don't feel like the George Lucas era Star Wars, or even like they just don't seem like the same as the movies. Like,
I
do you know
think.
what I'm saying? Like, you could tell there's like a distinction in the quality between the
Well,
movies and the TV shows when it comes to lightsabers in particular.
I agree with you. I think the TV show. I would rather watch the TV shows now. Like, if I'm being honest, like that's I've
Than the
come to love.
movies.
I've come to like really love the action and that, and you can do so many more things with them, and that's why like Rebels is so highly
Oh, you
regarded in
mean
my opinion.
animation though? You're saying animation.
Yes,
I
but
see. I'm saying just like the live action Star Wars shows. I feel like
well,
they have a
okay,
different
well,
quality than the movies.
I still agree though because I don't think it's the same level of cutting. So I think what Dave and like a lot of these directors are trying to do is they're not trying to do as many cuts. So it doesn't seem like it's fast paced or anything like that. Like Dave is really into the Kurosawa kind of like long drawn out kind of like battles where you're not doing that much. And those are cool, don't get me wrong. But what we all want is the fast pace. And granted, the Revenge of the Sith, the Obi-Wan and Anakin fight, that's kind of like the in between of both of them. But I
Hmm.
don't think you're getting enough of the cutting act, like cinematic cuts, not like actual cutting of the people, but like you're not getting the switching back and forth to where it seems like it's going really fast. You're just
Hmm.
getting you're just getting these long drawn out stuff, and it's like, okay, that's cool, but like we want the really fast action pace, and that's
Yeah.
what we've always been accustomed to. That's why kind of what my general point was, like the animation has really kind of driven our thoughts of like what fights could be, and you can do a
Hmm.
lot more with that. And
Hmm.
so to like go back to Rebels, like the fights in there are really good because it's fast action, it's a lot of cutting, and like you get to see the action actually play out rather than just one or two hits and the fight's done. It's like, okay, it's really cool that you know how to wield the lightsaber, but We want long drawn out, but if you're gonna have long drawn out, it needs to be a lot of action in it.
Yeah, and I mean, there's something to be said with, like, for budget and stuff too, like, you can do more things with a bigger budget, obviously, um,
Obviously.
but it's just, like, I just feel like there's a very stark difference in the quality of these TV shows, and I think it takes me out of the story sometimes just a little bit, 'cause it's like, this just doesn't feel like the big screen, you know? Um, and so if anything, um it makes me excited for Star Wars movies again. I'm still excited for the
Mhm.
show. I just, Sir Kathleen's comment here just kind of, uh, made me wanna point out, I did feel like there are parts of the trailer and just all of the live action stuff, even Ahsoka, where it kinda takes me out of the story because it just doesn't feel the same, but I'd be curious of what you all think. Um Travis says, if it's a Sith, we could see the transition from the Jedi now and in Phantom Menace, where they pretend the Sith emergence didn't happen to stay face or it's covered up like Camino. Yeah. Yeah, I think that that could be something. I think there could be a massive cover up, especially if this particular Sith assassin, Sith acolyte is or was a former Jedi, and maybe they're carrying around some secrets that Yoda and the higher ups of the Jedi Order are like, yeah, we don't really want this particular event to be common knowledge in the Jedi Order. So we're just gonna pretend like this didn't really happen. It was a really bad thing. We kind of messed up some things along the way, and if this were to ever like get out, this could really be bad. This could be bad publicity. It's basically, I think we could see. I think that would be so cool. Now I'm getting excited, a lot excited, more excited for the show. It's like, what if this ends in one big cover up somehow, some way?
I think it would be a really interesting twist on the story that we know.
One big cover up. Yeah, that would be really cool. That would be really cool. Raphael here says, "Yeah, I don't think in any way that it's too dark. If anything, I think it's very fitting given it's the rise of the dark side." I would agree. I don't think it's going to be too dark. At least doesn't seem that way yet. I mean, I have heard another thing that I've heard is that the undertones is pretty similar to Andor in that it's more of an adult type show, which is why it was getting some criticism from Josh. And he felt like it wasn't very George Lucas Star Wars, that it's feeling like it's more kind of made for adults. But I don't really get that vibe. Do you? Just like kind of like a short answer from you here. Do you get the vibe that it's made for adults?
Mm, if anything, I would say like teenagers, maybe, but
Okay.
not really like adultish.
Would you say it's made for kids? Because that's what
Mm,
George Lucas Star Wars, that's what he always kind of said. Like this is for kids.
I mean, although the Clone Wars and everything else, like that was, if he's saying that's for kids, then I kind of feel like it's in the same range, honestly.
Yeah, it's
Like,
it's it's. You're right. Because yeah, it's like okay, there's some pretty dark moments in the Clone Wars too. So
yeah,
I'm just pointing out like kind of what Josh was saying. Like I'm not really in agreement that this is so dark that it's only made for adults. But
no.
anyway, Travis says my friend lives in Ireland and got me a shirt from when they were shooting Last Jedi at Malin Head, and got to see them shooting this in the same place. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. That'd be epic to see them like shooting a Star Wars film.
I'm just going up and see
Raphael
Mark
says,
Hamill.
"Yeah, I would think how dark the show is would be the least of people's worries." Yeah, people seem to be, really, really caring about that for some reason. Uh, Cat Spot says, Raphael, that would just be too sloppy directing. At least have brightness shots for the light side. Oh, I get it. I think that was a little bit of sarcasm. I got you.
Mm.
LAB, the lust for power is evil. The Bible says that the love of money is evil. Forget the verse. The love of money is evil, but money itself is not. Only the love of it is. Yeah. Yeah, that is absolutely true. Travis says Bad Batch showed Crosshair follow a trail of human blood through snow. Kenobi showed Vader snap a kid's neck, and so on. So don't think they're worried about it being dark. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough, Senator. I think, yeah, that's kind of like to Journeyman's point. It's like they've done some pretty dark things before, and it's still made for kids.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Raphael says, "Oh, that is a good point, Ryan. I do hope they can do something that would tie into the Phantom Menace and what George wrote." Yeah, and what's really cool, like I said, we'll cover that article, hopefully sometime this week, maybe in a different stream from the Bestman Bulletin. But I do think this. Why am I drawing a blank on this? But the Phantom Menace is coming back into theaters this year, right? That was a
I
thing.
believe. Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So yeah, they very well could do something where maybe there's like some special footage from the Acolyte that like they kind of like preview before the Phantom Menace or something like that. It's like you can only see the footage for the first time in theaters or something like that. That would be pretty cool. Travis says Yoda does have that dark side version of him he faces in the Clone Wars, implying there's definitely a part of him he's hiding. Yes, very true. I'm feeling a video ideas coming, so I'm gonna have to make maybe a video about this. Let's see. Kathleen
Just to
says,
let you know,
agreed. Yeah, go ahead.
that re-release is coming on May 3rd
Okay, yeah,
for the
so
Phantom Menace.
perfect. Yeah, right before Star Wars Day. Nice, nice, nice. Let's see. Yeah, Senator Kathleen says, agree. The connection is going to be Plagueis and Palpatine. Well, the thing is, too, is this is supposedly being rumored as a multi-season show. So we could get multiple seasons of the show, which I think will be really cool. Always love more Star Wars content. So let's see. Travis says Palpatine is well over 100 in Phantom Menace, according to George Lucas. So while it doesn't need to happen, they could show a super young version of him here. Yeah, I think that's the key there. Travis is. It doesn't need to happen, but it could happen. Journeyman, what are your thoughts? Do we need to see Palpatine in this show, or do you think that just kind of diminishes the character at this point?
I don't think we need to see him. Maybe I don't know what they could hint to though. Like, if they're gonna draw a connection to the Phantom Menace, like it needs to be. I think it needs to be through Yoda. It's like if you're gonna make that connection, like it's got to be through the Jedi somehow that can still be around at the time of the Phantom Menace, because like I don't think Palpatine is necessarily alive at this point. Plagueis
Well,
is, but
I think that's what Travis says here. He's George Lucas has mentioned that Palpatine is well over 100 years old in the Phantom Menace. Like Palpatine is pretty aged, and so we could see a very young Palpatine in this show potentially.
Then yeah, if it's, I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah.
I don't think it diminishes it. I think it enhances what we know as the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
But I will say though,
I may have to take the camera off real quick to go deal with a kiddo. You can read this comment though and give your thoughts.
Okay. So says at Travis Mitchell, right? I believed in a novel, forgot what it was. Forgive me, but it talks about Dooku seeing how familiar Yoda seemed to be with the dark side, and Dooku terrified at that thought. Well, yeah, but I mean, if we go back to what we were kind of saying though, is if like Mace Windu had the dark side as well. Like he could possess that power, or at least have knowledge of it, you know. So I wouldn't shock me that Yoda knew dark side, or you know, knew something about it. That would be at least my thought on it. I think for the Palpatine thing, though, I think it enhances it. But my problem with it is if they're going to use Palpatine as like a teaser for the Phantom Menace, or like what we know is that, I think I would caution them on that, because I'm not saying they're going to make a second season. We don't even know at that point. But like, if you're going to do multiple seasons of the show, possibly, like, you need to think about how you're setting that up, and like using Palpatine in the first place. So I think it would be much easier if you used Yoda or some other entity other than Palpatine, to really do it. That would be what I would do. But then again,
Fill me in a little bit here.
so I was just saying, I read Raphael's message, but so what Raphael's saying is Raphael, whatever, is saying is, like, it wouldn't shock me that Yoda knew of the dark side, because Mace knew the dark side. Like, he was a powerful Jedi as well. Like, if I'm believing that's correct, like, he knew both sides of that, so he understood both of them. I think just the easier connection would be using Yoda, pretty much. But I said I also would caution, if you're going to use Palpatine as the connection, I would just caution, like, the writers or the directors of like, if you're going to make multiple seasons, which I'm not saying they're going to make multiple seasons, but if you do that, like, you have to be careful how you use Palpatine, because if you're showing Palpatine at the end of the season, like, you're kind of hinting that we're going to possibly use him again. And I would just caution, like, don't use that as the cameo or whatever. Like, you kind of need to be careful of that. That's why I think it would be much easier if you use Yoda or someone like other than that to go multiple seasons. But
yeah, I think this is going to be very interesting. The video you were referencing, I'm just now piecing together what it's about. I'm referencing before. Sorry, I think we kind of had a little bit of a lag there. But there was a video that you were referencing before the beginning of the stream, Star Wars Theories video. And I think what's really interesting about that is it's Kiandi Mundi. Like, he has Kiandi Mundi in the thumbnail, and Kiandi Mundi's the one who's like, when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are like, we came across a Sith, Darth Maul. He's like, that's impossible. Like, the Sith have not been around. And I feel like that's when Yoda and Mace are just kind of like, yeah, about that. Like,
yeah,
we know something you don't know. So and that's the point of his video, right? Is like, this show is going to have to address the fact that this very famous line and idea from Star Wars, this show is going into direct contradiction with that line. And if Dave Filoni will take a whole 7 season Clone Wars story and take it a certain direction, all because Anakin says, General Grievous, you're shorter than I expected, and we'll take that and run with it. You have to do the same thing with this show. It's like, they're gonna have to explain it one way or another. So,
Yes.
um,
We just hope
yeah,
that they do a good job at doing that.
yeah. Let's see. Raphael says, "I see what you're saying. I actually didn't think of it that way, and think that would actually be really good for this show, given not everything has to be dark. Thanks for bringing that up." I think that was in reference to this comment here. They didn't really know the extent and powers of the witches of Dathomir. Um, let's see. Travis says, "Always two there are, no more, no less," meaning that if there is hypothetically only one, from the Jedi perspective, it isn't a Sith. Let me read that again here. Always two there are, no more, no less, meaning that if there is hypothetically only one from the Jedi perspective, it isn't a Sith. Okay, so you're saying that if there's only one,
It's actually an interesting
eh,
thought.
well, I see what you're saying here, Travis. So you're saying like this,
Hmm.
if there's only one, then theoretically it isn't a Sith. But I think it's almost, I think we're almost for sure that it's a Sith at this point. Um,
But
so
that would,
I think they're just gonna have to get around explaining it. Basically, is what it's gonna come down to.
yeah, it's gonna come down to explaining it.
And we'll see how they do that. I hope they do it well. Honestly, I'm excited to
Hmm.
see how that they do that. Um, let's see. Travis says, "Cat spas. I'm excited for the different sex religions we're going to see in this show." Yeah, that was something I was thinking about too, Journeyman. I mean, you know me. We've talked about it on the show before. How I want to see different sections, different factions of Force users and things like that. This show could potentially see us a little bit of that. Show us a little bit of that. I think. Probably not to the extent that I would like to see, but nonetheless, it
Hmm.
still could do that. So. Travis says, "In this era, we also have the Order of the Open Hand, which is a cult of people who believe the Force doesn't belong to anyone and shouldn't be used, which I think could be in this trailer." Oh, interesting, Travis. Okay, so I think you've brought this up before too, and I believe this is from the High Republic stories, novels. Who do you think in the trailer is in this faction of people, this cult of people? Which part of the trailer? Kathleen says, "Yes, Travis, but there were a lot of different sex religions in the PT and OT than in sequel trilogy." Let's see. LEB says, "Cat Saws, I have a little bro. He's pretty young, and one of my fears is him seeing something like that in Star Wars, and it's confusing him. I'm older, I understand this kind of stuff, but he doesn't." Okay, so that sounds like there was another kind of like a chat going on inside the chat that I didn't cover. Kathleen says, "Be the teacher. You must be."
LEB, you must see the teacher. Mm.
Travis says, "Yeah, friend's parents had to shut off Prince of Egypt because Moses kills that one dude at the start, which gave their youngest nightmares. It's tough when they put in stuff like that." Yeah, I think the point here is like what's considered dark. They've kind of been talking about that in the chat, and it's like, yeah, you have a kids show in the Prince of Egypt, which is supposed to be a biblical story, and it gives kids nightmares. So it's just kind of like,
Yeah.
how do you navigate that? So, um, let's see. Travis says, "It's also canon that the Coruscant Temple is built on a Sith shrine, so the Jedi Order is literally cover up for the Sith already." That is true. I forget about that, but that is true. You know about that, right? You've heard that, like the temple is literally built
Yes.
on. Yes, so it's like what secrets are there, and you got to wonder if maybe like Yoda has dabbled a little bit.
True.
Kathleen says, "We're probably going to get a Rogue One ending." It's possible. definitely possible. Raphael
Yeah.
says, do you think we'll see Yoda in the series? I think it would make sense to see him given his age. I think we will see Yoda in this series. I think it would be kind of almost odd not to see him in this.
Yes, it would be odd not to see him. It would also wait on. What's that robot in Ahsoka? Is it KT?
No. Oh, why am I drawing a blank?
Oh, wow, I gotta look it up. Hold on. Robot in Ahsoka. Hu Yang.
Hu Yang. Yeah, we could see Hu Yang.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That's the other character I think we could see.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. Travis says, I love how Master Saul says both reach out like Luke and your eyes can deceive you like Ben. It shows how their two different teachings originated from one place before the Jedi splintered. Yeah, I liked that part of the trailer, and I hope we see a lot of that side of like the Jedi's training and things like that.
I think it was definitely more split during the era of the High Republic. I think in the George Lucas like originals and prequels, I think they were more or less. It was coming from. Not saying that there weren't different factions, but it was definitely being more pulled in one direction. Like they're all pulling towards one thing. It wasn't necessarily splintered as much as it was.
Yeah. Travis says it's interesting as we're going to see the Jedi teachings that Luke was directly pulling from in the text he found. The show can help people better see Luke's viewpoint in episode 8. Luke's viewpoint in episode 7 or 8, Travis. Probably both. But yeah, I mean, theoretically, yeah, that's possible. It could shed light on some of those things. So Travis says, unlike seeing Mace in the Mando, seeing Palpatine here is definitely unneeded. But having a random character who isn't name dropped until later as Sheev would be cool. Yeah, I agree. Like I think it makes more sense to see Yoda in the series than it does Palpatine, but it would be kind of interesting to see like Palpatine at the very end of the series make a little cameo. So
yeah.
Kathleen says, Travis, a young Plagueis would make more sense. Travis says, to clear that up, George told Ian Palpatine was over 100 in Return of the Jedi, not Phantom Menace. So about a 50-year difference. If we see him, he couldn't be much older than a baby. Fair enough. Yeah, well, and like I said too, this series could potentially go into multiple seasons. So, let's see here. Just scrolling through to catch up on some of these. Travis says, just realized there's a possibility of Yoda and Maz Kanata together, which would be awesome if they did that. That would be kind of cool. Kathleen says, Raphael, they probably think they killed Acolyte, but they survive and go into hiding. Raphael says, yeah, that is probably what will happen. It would kind of be a bummer for the Acolyte to just die at the end, but for there to be a twist, there they live on. Guys, you know what I really hope does not happen is the Acolyte just turns back to the good side or something like that, or back to the light.
Yes,
That would just be
we
such a
don't need
classic
that.
Disney thing. We don't want
No,
that.
we don't need
Yeah,
that.
we don't want that. Um, Kathleen says, well, the Sith rose from somewhere, and Raphael says, I meant it would be a bummer for the Acolyte to just die, and would be better for there to be a twist where she survives. Yeah, yeah, we don't want to see the Acolyte, just turn around and become the good guy again. So nobody wants to see that. Raphael says totally agree there. So, but yeah, I mean, all in all, I'm pretty excited for the series. Kathleen says Acolyte becomes a gray Jedi, maybe. I mean, I would just rather like the bad stay bad. I don't want there to be, as much as I love the redemptive nature of Star Wars and that like the redemption of Anakin and Ben Solo, I think if we start redeeming too many characters, it just gets a little repetitive. That's what's so special
Yes,
about Anakin's character, is that he was this very bad person and is redeemed in the end.
and
And so
that's
I
a
just,
very rare thing. Like it's
yeah, so I just don't want that to be common. Yeah, I don't know.
at least for Star Wars. It's not saying that everyone can't be redeemed. It's just like there's very few people that actually do get
Yeah.
redeemed.
Ellie B says, I think it would be better if she never turns back to the light. Yeah, I think we're all in agreement with that. And I'm just worried that Disney's going to have other thoughts. So,
Well, I think what would even be, and it's not even. I mean, here's the thought. It's not that she necessarily turns bad, but we all think Plagueis is going to be there, right? Or would you say Plagueis is going to be a part of it?
we think.
And what if it talks about this is about power, right? What if the Acolyte thinks she can actually take on Plagueis, and not for good, or like not for good, but for the power of it, like goes up and tries and gets Plagueis's power, but is ultimately defeated at that point. And then we see a shot of Palpatine as a baby. And that's where the whole series ends. Like, at least just end it there. Like, that would be a much better ending than, and we understand where that leads to at that point.
Well, and Senator Kathleen makes a good point here too, because redemption means death in Star Wars lately. It's like anytime a character does get redeemed, they ultimately die. So, I mean, theoretically, we could see the Acolyte be redeemed and then die out of a sacrifice of some sorts. I mean, Anakin dies after he's redeemed, and then Ben dies after he's redeemed. So,
yeah, but my redemption wouldn't be based off of just what we think of naturally as redemption. It would be, no, I want your power. I want it so badly that I think I can fight you for this. Out of the power of it, not the redemption factor of it.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's some cool. It's going to be a cool show. I have no doubt that it's going to be a cool show. I'm excited to see what they do. I am excited to check it out now because of the trailer, and especially after our conversation with you, Journeyman, and the rest of the senators. I think like that we've had some good conversation here, especially about like the potential of a cover up and things like that. If they choose to go that direction, I think that would be really cool. But we're just speculating at this point. And so I think what we could do is we could talk about some more like in detail things in a stream later on this week. We could also cover the Bad Batch episode. Don't forget the Bad Batch is also coming out this week too. I can't remember the name of the episode, but Bad Batch comes out 2 a.m. tonight Central Time. So we will talk about that in the coming days. Maybe on Thursday or Friday we can do a stream. And yeah, we'll cover Acolyte too and kind of go into detail on some of the articles, and hopefully we'll get some more information released throughout the week on certain things too that will shed light on some things. Just a couple of things for those who are still watching. Just a reminder, if you're not subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We have a push to try to get to 1,000 subscribers by June 1st, if possible. Not sure if we're going to meet the goal, but we're going to try. So make sure you share with your friends, share on your social media. We would love for people to come on over and become a senator of the channel. If you want to become a true senator of the channel, I know we have a few people in the chat who are not members yet. It's $2.99 a month. You get access to the Senate chamber Discord channel where we can have audio conversations and get to know your fellow senators a little bit better. And myself and Journeyman are often there as well. And then you get things like the custom emojis that Senator Kathleen was posting in the chat. You also get the loyalty badges like Travis and Kathleen have in the chat. So a lot of cool stuff. You can also gift memberships too, which is a great way to support the channel. I love doing this, and I love making time to do this and getting to chat with you guys. And I know Journeyman does too. So we're just happy that you all are here and would appreciate any support that you all can give if possible. So appreciate you all doing that. If you haven't given the like button a smash, hit that like button. That helps us out as well. What am I missing, Dirty Man? Am I missing anything? Leave a comment if you have a future Galactic Senate discussion you want to talk about. I'll be checking the comment section of this video or this live stream to see if there's any Galactic Senate discussion topics that you all want to talk about. We'll be sure to check those out and do one pretty soon. So Raphael says, I'm definitely looking to become a member soon. Appreciate that, Raphael. Yeah, I'd love to talk to you in the Senate chamber audio channel. Travis is there. Maybe Kathleen can pop in sometime too. Would love to get to chat with Kathleen in the audio channel. So good stuff. Good stuff. Let's see. Trying to make sure there's no chats that I missed. I don't think there is. So anyway, Dreamman, is there anything that I missed? Anything you want to talk about?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head.
Love it. All right. Well, I think that pretty much covers it all. Appreciate you all. Hope to see you all later on this week in the stream that we do to just cover and wrap up the Acolyte conversation and all that good stuff. So take care to everyone. Let's go ahead and motion to adjourn the stream to a later date. And may the force be with you always.